views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Sometimes we don't stop to acknowledge how things are different now.
Tonight on Politics Now, Congressman Ted Deutch from Florida tells us about gun control legislation he sponsored with Nevada Congresswoman Dina Titus and why he remains optimistic about it passing.
They are looking for a place, but really I think the Arizonians would like to keep everybody right where they are.
Talks with a Major League Baseball team might not be very fruitful. Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman tells us why.
Their family could not access health care, could not afford it.
Plus, the fix to the Affordable Care Act that Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto is pushing for.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius.
The House Judiciary Committee this month passed a gun bill sponsored by Congresswoman Dina Titus. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Sebelius. The bill is called the Keep Americans Safe Act, and it's also sponsored by her fellow Democrat, Florida Congressman Ted Deutch. The bill bans high-capacity magazines with more than 10 rounds for both rifles and handguns. Deutch was in Las Vegas with Titus to campaign for the bill, and I talked to both of them about it.
This would apply to all ammunition magazines, whether for a handgun, a rifle, anything like that.
Right. The simple fact is that no one needs to fire off more than 10 rounds at a time, and we're taking this step because if you look at the horrific mass shootings, unfortunately, the one constant throughout so many of them is a high-capacity magazine that allows the shooter to fire off multiple rounds and cause great death and destruction. This is a way to try to rein that in and to save lives.
Yeah, and certainly that's what they were designed for. They were designed for military use, so you could put as many rounds downrange in as short a time as possible without having to reload.
You just don't need that kind of weapons of war either for recreational shooting, for hunting on our streets.
We've had now Gilroy and Texas and Ohio. They're happening all these places. It seems like if those can't motivate a simple bill such as a background check bill, which many people say is quite literally the least we can do is ensure that every person who buys a gun is legally authorized to have it. If we don't get that done at this point with those people and their deaths as motivation, we'll never do anything. What do you say to that?
Well, I appreciate the cynicism, and when 26 and 7-year-old kids, babies, are slaughtered in their classroom, it's outrageous that nothing happened. But the cynicism is so built in because we're so frustrated. Sometimes we don't stop to acknowledge how things are different now. Over the past couple of years, after what happened in Las Vegas, after what happened in Parkland, and after each one of these awful tragedies, you've seen this movement continue to grow. It's because of the gun safety movement, the moms, the kids, the survivors, the families who lost loved ones, that major corporations all across the country have severed their ties with the NRA. They've changed the way they interact with guns and how they treat guns in their establishments. There is a lot that has happened. It's not enough because people like Mitch McConnell continue to stand in the way, but let's build upon the success that we have seen, acknowledge that the movement is real and is effective, and then push forward until we can accomplish even more.
I think, too, you can see it in the presidential elections. Now, every presidential candidate is asked for their position. What are you going to do about guns?
The red flag laws are interesting because we passed one here in Nevada. There is a due process aspect to that. Do you think that a law like that would have any chance in the Congress?
Yeah, I absolutely do. This is one where you've seen Republican support for the idea. I introduced legislation with our colleague from Indiana, Susan Brooks, that's modeled off of legislation that Indiana passed with a Republican legislature signed by a Republican governor that has helped, since its passage, keep people safe by getting guns, giving law enforcement the ability to take guns out of the hands of people who pose a risk to themselves and to others. That should be pretty straightforward, and my hope is that we'll be able to move quickly to get that out of the House and to the Senate for passage too.
Along those same lines, people that are convicted of domestic violence shouldn't have guns. And even the very simple can't fly, don't buy, people who are on the fly watch list, surely they shouldn't have guns. That would be a very simple thing that we should be able to get passed.
Meanwhile, in the delegation, Nevada Congresswoman Susie Lee objected to an amendment on a separate bill, the School Shooting Safety and Preparedness Act, rather. The amendment would have taken out a provision allowing the Centers for Disease Control to study school shootings.
Underlining bill allows us to collect data so that we have the ability to use that data to do common sense policy that saves lives and protects kids. What is the problem with that?
Well, that was a clip her staff posted on her YouTube channel. That amendment was killed and the bill was voted out of the House Education and Labor Committee this week. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto has supported legislation that would allow the CDC to study all gun violence as a public health issue. Well, the House Judiciary Committee held its first impeachment investigation hearing this week. President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, testified in what turned out to be a very testy hearing. Democrats grilled Lewandowski on whether President Trump attempted to obstruct justice in the special counsel investigation. Republicans called the proceeding a charade. Bree Jackson has a report.
You should be here to be telling the truth, because the truth will set you free.
Democrats clashed with President Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, over his private conversations with President Trump.
How many times did he direct you to deliver a message to a member of his cabinet?
The White House has directed not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president.
House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler says Lewandowski's testimony is critical to determining whether the president obstructed justice.
We intend to secure accountability for any wrongdoing, because no one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
Democrats say the Trump administration is engaging in a cover-up by limiting what Corey Lewandowski can say. But Republicans say these impeachment hearings are a meaningless show.
You like having the press here, you like the cameras, because it makes it appear like something's happened that's not.
Georgia Congressman Doug Collins says the Democrats are grasping for reasons to impeach the president, but can't find the votes to move forward. And Ohio Republican Steve Chabot says the hearings are distracting Congress from more important issues.
We're spending our time on this fake impeachment, but we could be focused on something that really matters, like immigration.
But Democratic leaders say they plan to keep investigating until all their questions are answered. In Washington, Bree Jackson.
Well, according to the Mueller report, President Trump asked Lewandowski to direct then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to curb the Russia probe, but Lewandowski told lawmakers he never delivered that message. Well, more than half of Nevada's schools are exceeding or meeting their performance standards. The Nevada School Performance Framework was released this week. The state rates schools from 1 to 5 stars based on factors that include test passing rates in English, math, academic growth, graduation rates, and chronic absenteeism. 53% of schools received 3 stars or higher. A total of 98 schools received a 4 or 5 star ranking. 86 schools increased at least 1 star from the 2018 results.
As we continue to look and dig deeper into where we are today, we have a Focus 2024 and a 5-year plan to get to move away from having any 1 or 2 stars. I believe that we can do the work as we continue to accelerate.
All of the Clark County School District's career and technical academies, as well as the district's College of Southern Nevada high schools, received 5-star ratings. One school, Triggs Elementary, went from 2 to 5 stars this year, so congrats to them. Well, coming up, laws governing everything from owning pets to minors buying kratom. A host of new laws kick in Nevada on October 1st. We'll tell you about some of them. And Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman is not optimistic about the Diamondbacks coming to...
Welcome back to Politics Now.
A whole slew of new laws will kick in on October 1st. They include some unusual ones that you may have assumed were already laws. First up, AB 161. Your homeowners association can't prohibit you from owning at least one pet. But this only applies prospectively. If your HOA agreement already says you can't own one, this doesn't mean you can head down to the shelter on October 1st. Associations can't change the rules if they already allow pets. And stores can't sell the drug kratom to minors. Violators could get a $1,000 fine. And starting October 1st, police officers can't have sex with someone they've arrested or detained. This law was apparently needed because some were using the defense that sex with suspects was consensual. And finally, your boss cannot require you to get implanted with a microchip as a condition of employment. However, you can voluntarily get one implanted if you want to. Well, the push for professional sports teams in Nevada continues with news that the Arizona Diamondbacks have been talking with the cities of Henderson and Las Vegas. But Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman seemed less than optimistic about that idea. Here's what she said on Good Day Las Vegas this week.
There was word that the city had been in discussion with the Arizona Diamondbacks about moving Major League Baseball, that franchise, here for a possible relocation. We've seen the documents. What can you tell us about where things stand and how real this actually might be?
Well, certainly you as a longtime Las Vegan by now would know. I think they're trying to use this as a little bit of a wedge to get a better deal where they are. Yes, it has been, under a confidential agreement, the discussion. So really, I don't think it's going to happen. They are looking for a place, but really, I think the Arizonians would like to keep everybody right where they are.
Yeah, it's hard because we've heard so much discussion about the possibility of Major League Baseball coming here, and then you see these documents from Henderson and from Las Vegas about the Diamondbacks, but you think it's
Well, we started there with ice hockey in 1999 with my husband, rumors then, and of course the gaming was a killer. But we've heard that about football, we've heard about NBA, and I think one day we will have a Major League Baseball team, but right now, our focus still stays on MLS, soccer, and also an NBA team.
Well, coming up, fixing parts of the Affordable Care Act.
If you're a dependent child, and you have children that are dependents, then their income, whether it's a summer job or something like that, should not be used against you.
The new bill introduced by Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and the letter that she says gave her the idea. Plus, the latest campaign craze is turning into selfie.
You're watching Politics Now.
Nevada's senior senator Catherine Cortez Masto introduced a bill intended to make health insurance more affordable for middle-income families. It excludes families with kids who have summer jobs or who are attending college from calculating their income when determining their Affordable Care Act subsidies. Our Washington, D.C. Bureau correspondent Alexander Limon is on that story.
Their family could not access health care, could not afford it because it was too expensive. And what we found out after reaching out to them and talking with them is that they have children who have a summer job, and their dependent children's summer job income was being counted against them.
Now, the bill is an expansion of the Affordable Care Act. Cortez Masto says it could make the difference between gaining coverage or remaining uninsured. So I asked Alex about their conversation. Well, Alex, you spoke to Senator Cortez Masto about this. Did she say whether or not this proposal has any support in Congress?
Yeah, she said she's already gotten some of her fellow lawmakers on board. She also told me that Congressman Stephen Horsford, also of Nevada, is going to be introducing the companion bill in the U.S. House of Representatives. So it sounds like it does have support from Democrats, this idea of expanding some of the protections under Obamacare for families who have, college students still on their health care. However, getting Republican lawmakers on board to support a bill that would expand Obamacare is going to be a really difficult thing to do, because we've already heard people like Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and others talk about how they're running in 2020 on this idea of trying to repeal Obamacare once again.
So given that, and given that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell really does control the flow of legislation to the floor, why introduce it in the first place in the face of that opposition?
We know Senator Cortez Masto and other Democratic lawmakers have told me many times that they know that the #1 issue that's most important to their constituents at home is health care and whether they can have affordable health care. And Senator Cortez Masto, you heard she talked about how one of her constituents reached out to her about this. And so I think she thinks it's really important. But the other part of this is pretty much every Democratic lawmaker I've talked to that won a seat in the midterm elections told me they think they won because of the issue of health care. So as we head into the 2020 elections, I think that this is going to be a big push and focus that we see from Democrats. And I think Senator Cortez Masto maybe believes that if Democrats keep control of the House and gain control of the Senate, then her bill would have a really strong chance of passing maybe under a future Congress.
Yeah, and we take her at her word. This is something that, she was talked about by her constituents. This is something she really believes in, but it also could have a double purpose, which is to cast the Democrats as running on building on the Affordable Care Act, keeping its provisions, rather than the opposition party, the Republicans, which are now suing to invalidate it and running on a complete and total repeal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think Democrats will openly tell you, yes, they're running on health care, on expanding health care protections, and on trying to make it more affordable.
Great. Sounds good. Well, Alexander Limon from Washington, D.C., thank you very much for reporting, as always, and we'll talk to you soon. This is On the Trail, where we keep an eye on what the 2020 presidential candidates are up to. President Donald Trump had several high-dollar fundraisers in California this week. His campaign expected them to raise a total of $15 million. Ticket prices start at $1,000 per person and can go up to $100,000 for VIP couples. On the same trip, the White House floated a plan to deregulate housing to increase supply, which is a clear dig at California and the state's high housing prices. On Tuesday, Democratic presidential frontrunner Joe Biden spoke to the AFL-CIO 2020 convention in Philadelphia. He touted his political longevity, telling the crowd, quote, "You all know me." Bernie Sanders spoke at the same convention, and he, like Biden, ran through his legislative history of supporting organized labor. And Elizabeth Warren is wedged in between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders in the latest polls. The national political media has also been taking note of her selfie lines, where she sticks around and poses with supporters after campaign events. Her campaign says she took 4,000 photos at this event Monday night, bringing the total count this year to almost 60,000 selfies. She stuck around for about 4 hours taking those photos. Fellow candidate Cory Booker is also fond of the audience selfie and has even been known to record a video. Well, looking for Area 51.
We're seeing an increase of people who are coming up to our gate.
What the Department of Energy is blaming for the confusion among tourists and visitors looking for the top secret military base. Embedded in the caravans. Last fall, among thousands of Central American migrants making their way north to the U.S.-Mexico border was a lawyer from Wisconsin. When she wasn't giving legal advice, she was walking for hours, day in and day out. You'll find that firsthand account right now at borderreport.com. Read how she compares being in the middle of those massive caravans to her other travels. Well, the events planned for this weekend after the storm Area 1 Facebook page went viral have been drawing a lot of attention to the famed site, but a Department of Energy spokesman talked with the I-Team about how some early visitors aren't so prepared with directions. The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy tells us how they're blaming Google Maps in part for unwelcome visitors showing up in the wrong place.
For the 2 Dutch nationals, $500 each.
Darwin Morgan says don't be these guys. They were arrested last Tuesday in Nye County.
They willfully admitted that they read the signs, they ignored the signs, and drove onto the site and trespassed.
Morgan is a spokesperson for the Nevada National Security Site, a U.S. Department of Energy facility.
We are not Area 51.
On the Nevada National Security Site's website, a statement. Area 51 is located on the Nevada Test and Training Range, which is managed by the U.S. Air Force. It does not fall under the purview of the Nevada National Security Site. But with all of the hype surrounding Area 51 after this Storm Area 51 Facebook page went viral,
we're seeing an increase of people who are coming up to our gate.
Morgan says security will have to be stepped up in anticipation of this weekend's events planned in both Rachel and Heiko.
There are Google Maps that will show a route that takes them to our site to get to Area 51, so that's our biggest issue, is Google doesn't help us. And then they get mixed up on the highway numbers. They want to take Highway 93, but they're on Highway 95.
Take a look at this map. Here is the Nevada National Security Site, which is south of the Nevada Test and Training Range where Area 51 is located.
We're a completely separate piece of real estate.
Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Now, the entrance to the Nevada National Security Site is in Nye County, so there may be additional Nye County Sheriff's deputies there this weekend. And in Lincoln County, where the events are planned, according to the Sheriff's Office, there'll be 150 officers, 300 first responders, and additional agencies such as the FBI. Well, this is what to watch with what we're keeping an eye on for next week. Saturday, September 28th will be Nevada's 3rd annual Public Lands Day. About 86% of the state is controlled by the federal government. There'll be events all around Nevada. The governor and many of the groups advocating for public lands will be at Mountains Edge Park to celebrate. And a presidential candidate forum on gun safety will be in Nevada on October 2nd, one day after the anniversary of the 1 October massacre. It's hosted by several anti-gun groups, including March for Our Lives and former Congressman Gabby Giffords. The details have yet to be announced. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks so much for watching Politics Now. If you have questions or comments about the show or about politics, send me an email, sebelius@8newsnow.com. You can stay up to date online and on air and watch the show right here every Saturday. Right now, stay tuned for college football.